Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Radhika TechHub. In this tutorial today we are going to discuss about how to set up our React Redux. So how to create our store, reducers and action, all setup we are going to see in this video today. So first we will set up our project. We will install our React Redux. Now we'll install. Now we'll open our Visual Studio. Create our one folder components. So our setup is completed. Now we'll start with creating of components folder first. In this I'm going to create one file. Now we'll import it into our app.js. Now we'll see here our file is successfully imported. So we all know that actions what we will do. It carries the payload and the type of the action. So now we'll create our store, reducers and action type. So let's start with our creating a folder of Redux. In this first I'm going to create action type. So for action folder, heading of action dot type dot js. So first we'll discuss about the use dispatcher, why we used to use dispatcher, use selector. For use selector, we are going to get the data which is present in the state, which is initial state, which is present in the reducer. So for to get the data, use selector, to dispatch, use dispatch, to make to call our methods which is present related to the action type, and to get the call the methods. So use dispatch. By using dispatch only will has to call our action type and payload which we want to pass that. There we are going to create our type. Get list. So we have created our action type successfully. Now we are going to create our action.js also. So in this, here mainly we are focusing on the action type and payload. Nothing but a two parameters which is carried by the action, right? So for this, export get user list, which we are calling here. So here it returns the action type. Created our type is the get list. So we created one our action type. Now we'll go for the reducer folder. Here I am taking the index.js one file and user.js. So for our reducers, we are having 10 reducers in our application. We are having 10 reducers. If 10 reducers means how you are going to create or how you are going to set up to call the reducers, all the reducers in the store. So all those combination without importing it in the direct in the store, we are going to declare all the reducers in one file, and that file carries whole reducers which we are using in our application, and the only one reducer we will going to import our store. So for that we require combine reducer. So for me, we are having the, I'm taking the reducers. Use here is the combine reducers. Here, take here like this, and make our reducers list here. So as of now we are using the users. So I am taking the name as a user for this, which we are created the reducer is user reducer. So user reducer. First we'll import that our user reducer here. Not written anything, that's why it is not showing here. Okay, first we'll create our user reducer as of now. So for user reducer, we are having in reducers, we are having initial state. So first we'll create one data and we'll go for that. So ID I'm taking one and the name, and one more ID I'm giving. So we are going to do now the initial state. So initial state. Here I am taking the user list, assigning my data which we have created above this, and count. I am declaring an initial value as 0. Now we are going to create our reducer, right? Const, so which we have given the name as user reducer. Here initial our initial state to the state equals to initial state, and we call the action type. Based on the action type itself, the method is called, right? So here action. Now going to switch our method. It takes the action type, action dot type. So the type which it is coming from the action, here you are going to declare the type. So this is which we get from there. So type, action type, based on the type it is matched to the case. So we are created, what is the action type? Get list. So here you called as the get list type. So if the action type, when we dispatch our method of like get user list, in this what is the present type is the get list. So the type here it is match. After matching here it will return the content which you want to execute, what you want has here. You return the method, you return the value which you want to get the data or which you want to update the data, the action, whole thing will be modification has been done here. So return, so state, and here user list, you are passing the user list. For the get list you are passing the data which is present, assign the data to the user list, we are passing here the user list. So this is the how will pass return state. So now we'll call our reducer here. So user reducer. Here you are going to assign the reducer. But we will not directly call our user reducer any of the components here. So for the user name, B has been given the alias name. Nothing but a user. So you can see here it is containing of user list ID, name which we are declaring a user list. Now we'll export our reducer. So we created our reducer. We successfully created our combined reducer, nothing but a root reducers. We call it as a root reducer because the root reducer containing of all reducers which we are using in our application. The whole reducers, how many reducers you are going to using in the application will be carries by the root reducer. This root reducer we are going to assign it to the store, our heart of the Redux. The store, in the store we are going to assign our root reducer. So it calls a root reducer, and when we call particular action type, so based on the action type we are going to use the components, right? In the components which we want to get the data, so it gets our root reducer here. Now we are going to create our store. So we have to mainly want here is a create store. Now we'll call our root reducer, which we named as a reducers, and const store. This is the create store, and we are assigning our root reducer here. And if any we are having a middleways, we can make initialize here. So this is the how we create our store. Now we'll export our store. And mainly if you want to done all these whole functionality will has to happen. If you want to execute these functionality reducers action store, we have to what we have to main thing we have to do, we have to declare or import our store in our index.js. So to get this functionality done, go to index.js and we have to import provider provider provider, and we have to declare our store. So now we'll execute how to use, and we'll see now how to use our use selector. First of all, we'll going for the use selector, and we want to execute the data which is having present in the user list. So first we'll go for the we'll execute our data here which is present here. So go to this, and here I am const, I'm taking as the name as list. Use selector. In this use selector, I am declaring as a state, because the state containing how many variables which we are declared there, we can see here. So state dot. So what you has to call here, I already told that we are giving the alias name here. What is this? User. For this user indicates the user reducer. So we call our reducer here. So state dot user. Now you can see here that list containing how many things, how many variables which we are declared in our initial state. So here you can see state data. Now we'll see, refresh the page, inspect. So there we are declaring our user list. In user list again we are having the data. See, you can see here. And the one more variable which we are assigned in the insert state is count equals to 0. So this is the how we'll call our reducer through using of use selector. Now we will list our data which is present there. So we are using now user list, right? Now I'm going to execute here list dot. So we named here what we has been named here. Go to the reducer and see here we are having the user list. In user list we are having the data. So go there. So user list, and you can see here also user list having the data. So user list dot map information which we are getting, and the key is info.id. So we are having the name info.name. You can see here, you can see the data here which is present in our state. So now we are going to execute our using of use dispatch. Then how we will using, now let's see. So here get user list we are executed. Now we will dispatch one count. So for that I am using, now we are not called this, almost we are not called this because we are not executing any API. So directly I am stored in the state, right? So no need of this method also. So const get count method. Now we'll dispatch this method. So return, which we are passing the type is, so first we are going to declare that export const get count. So the type I am calling is as the get count. So when I call the get count, I want the increment of count here. So here is get count when it is called, return state in this count equals to state dot count, which we are initialized as a 0, so incremented to be 1. Now we will dispatch this method which is get count. So go to our component here and we'll create one button. When I click here on click, I want to dispatch my method. So first we'll make our dispatch to import const dispatch equals to use dispatch. So here dispatch of, we have to pass the type here. Or else we can call this get count method. So get count, when we call this, it executes a type of get count here. So when the get count is matched here, when it is matched here, the count will be incremented to 1. So for this, well, so it containing of data of user list and count. So here we are going to display our count, what I named as list. So list dot count, and we are going to style here once. background color. We'll see how the color is. And making of padding 10 pixel. Now once we will see how it is. So when we click here, the action type is called. So it is incremented to 1. You can see here 2, now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is the how it is increasing. Using of use dispatch. We call the methods which is present in the action, and based on that type it will trigger the reducer, and the modification which is has to happen there will be done there. So that will be reflected in our view. So use selector, we can get the data from there and we will use that and to display in our view. For using of a store, so multiple of reducers will make that in the least in the root reducer, and will root reducer will be used in our store. For this, our reducer name is too long, so we can make it as an alias name in our here in the list of root reducer list. So this is the how we'll create our reducers, and we'll use the action type, action and reducers. And video we are going to discuss how to use the configure store and what's the difference between of create store and configure store, and how to set up that configure store we'll discuss in the next video. So in this part we are discussed about how to set up our Redux. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, click on the bell icon, it will give the notifications when I upload the new videos.